Levi's queuing us up online. Hey, everybody online. Seeing if So everybody online, we hope that the stream will work well today. They've done some work on their internet here. We're trying a hardwired connection instead of the Wi-Fi, so hopefully it'll do better. We have a greatly reduced crowd today, don't we? Yeah. Spring break. Daylight savings, spring break, and crazy tree allergies all piled up on the same weekend. Yeah, me too, Brady. Big time. So that's why you should have heard my voice this morning. I was ready to come in here and do some Ring of Fire. And I probably would have been able to get lower than him. So a couple of announcements real quick. PJ is not here. I don't know if you saw the text about Shirley, but we need to be praying for her. She's in the hospital. She fell out of her chair, and that broke her ankle. Her body is just weak. They found, they think, a little bit of a pneumonia, and she tested positive for 2 strains of the flu. So she needs our prayers. And because she tested positive for 2 strains of the flu, and PJ is also feeling what could be allergies or could be illness, he's just playing it safe and staying home, and he doesn't have a voice anyway. So he is away, so let's be praying for him. He is all by his lonesome because his family is out are they in Florida or California with the band trip? I can't remember which, but they're at Disney and he's at home. So he was looking forward to getting a whole bunch of work done, but he's not been able to do that. So pray for him. Let's see, Caressa has, you have the t-shirts or you have the order forms?
No, I'm ready to take orders.
Ready to take orders. So Caressa is ready to take orders for t-shirts. And any parameters on that? Okay, she's going to show which shirts we're doing, and thank you for doing that, by the way.
Okay, it's
you can wear the team colors.
this on the front, and then on the back it's going to have the Micah 6.8. Huh?
The camera can't see.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay. So this logo on the front, and then the back will have the Micah 6.8. It's $10 a shirt, and I have I can show you what the color options are. Some of them are the same and some of them are a little different. So if you've already ordered and you want to see what it looks like now, I can show you that. But I have my list and I'm ready to take orders. So let me know.
Awesome, thank you very much.
What was on the back?
The Micah 6.8 verse.
Okay.
Y'all remember that? It's been a while since we talked about that. What does the Lord require of you? But to
Justly
with, walk humbly with our God. Go team! And walk humbly with God. Right, act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with our God. It's been a long time. Do you remember the 3 words we associated with that? Does anybody remember the 3 words? Up. What did you say? Up. In and out. So that's all it took to jar everybody's memories. Yeah, up and out. Those are the relationships that we as a people of God have to be focused on. Our upward relationship with Him, our inward relationship with each other, and our outward relationship with people outside of the world. And we're going to be highlighting out today a little bit. Before we do that, I just want to get us focused. And I'm gonna allow for some time. This is something that we don't typically do as a church, but this is biblical. When we read about expressions of the church in the New Testament, we hear all of these accounts of people who came, and lots of people had things to share. There was a lot of one anothering going on in the church. That's the way that it's meant to be. Those of you who are in the spiritual gift groups, which we've taken a break from for a little bit, and we're going to wrap those up pretty soon, but in spiritual gift groups, we learned that each of us has a gift. And we need to use that gift to help other people. That gift is not given to you for your own benefit, although you benefit as you use it. But it's given to you so that as you use it, other people benefit and they grow and they come to see God and they become more like Him. There's a lot of one anothering. And it talks about when people came, they had something to share. They had some encouragement to share. Maybe they would have crazy things like prophecies to share with each other. Like, I feel like God is saying this. This morning, I woke up with the beginnings of a song in my head. And this was the phrase that was in my head. Boy, can I remember it now? It's a good thing I wrote it down. Let me pull this up in my notes. Because I think maybe there are people here that need to hear this. And in fact, this morning I got a call from a friend who I haven't talked to in a long time, whose life is falling apart, and they are having a spiritual crisis, and they think that there's spiritual darkness at work. And so maybe this was just for that person, or maybe it's for somebody else here. But the words to this song were, and I heard it clear as day: in Christ we've seen the darkness give way to light. In Christ we've seen the enemy put to flight. We are here because we are in Christ. And in him all things hold together. God's word tells us that he is before all things. It tells us that there was not anything made that has been made without him. All things were made by him and through him and for him. Every single one of us was made for him and for his purposes and not our own. And as we pursue him, we're undergoing this lifelong process of him prying our fingers off of these things that we want to cling to so desperately, that are the things of the world. A lot of those things are not inherently evil, but as Paul says, not all things are, he says everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. We're meant to be like Jesus. And when we are allowing him to pry our fingers off of things and we start clinging to him, we'll see the enemy put to flight in our lives. We'll see darkness put to flight. I have been reading through the Old Testament. I've been in Numbers. And so sometimes you might read a book like Numbers and go, what has this got to share? And I was reading about how the temple was in the middle of the camp. And all around the outside of the camp, it was talking about how things were arranged outside of the camp. The temple, that's God's presence, was in the middle of the camp. And the Israelites were arranged in their tribes all around that. But between the rest of the Israelites and the temple were the Levites, the priesthood. The priests were between the Israelites, the rest of the Israelites, and God's presence. And that's because the priest's job at that time was to mediate between the people and God. They would come to God on the people's behalf and seek forgiveness. They would come to God on the people's behalf and seek wisdom. Or they would announce to the people God's greatness and his glory and his forgiveness. There are all these things in the temple, like incense, that we see again in Revelation, that are the prayers of his people. So this picture being painted in Numbers of the Levites being between the temple and the people as the intercessors between God and the people. And then I remembered 1 Peter 2, verse 9, that says this to us. It says, you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for his own possession, that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. In Christ, we see darkness giving way to light. And you are the priesthood. I've read this verse for many years and then thought, okay, wow, priesthood, the Israelites, the people that heard this verse, that heard Peter say this, would have blown their minds, because, wow, you're telling me I'm a priest? I thought the priests were these privileged special people. Only they can go into the temple, into the presence of God. And Peter is saying, yeah, well, the veil's been torn, so now you're a priesthood, and now you're the ones interceding on God's behalf for the people in your lives. God is at the center of your life, and you have been called to intercede on the behalf of the people who are around you. Some of them may be living in darkness. In fact, without Christ, everyone's living in darkness. And so this says, here's the purpose. You're a priesthood, a holy nation, a people for God's own possession, and here's why. So that you may proclaim the excellencies of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. That's who we are. That is the calling that we have. And this is the one that we get to proclaim the excellencies of. And we're going to do that through song this morning. But before we start, if anybody has anything to share, if anybody has a prayer request, something you want us to pray about, if anything has something that God has been speaking to you about, I would love to hear it. Now, I'll be amazed if anybody shares anything, because that's not Community of Hope culture yet. I hope it becomes Community of Hope culture, because it's biblical church culture. So, does anybody, yes, Willie.
Good morning. So I just wanted to share that we had a person reach out to us recently that has a medical issue. It's an unknown medical issue right now. Anyway, she insurance is like marketplace insurance, and it's really difficult. She's a single mom of 3 teenagers, and our core team has reached out to her to help her with some rent. She is working, but fell behind on some of her bills. And the church also prepared some cookies we're taking to her, and then some other folks have reached out to her to help her repair her bed for one of her kids and some other things. And so, she's struggling. She's out there alone, and her name is Shirlika. And so we just asked for prayers for Shirlika today.
Shirlika. Okay, so we will be praying for Shirlika. Anybody else? Prayer requests, something God's put on your heart? Some encouragement that maybe somebody in here needs to hear. Remember, the gifts that we get are not just for ourselves. Sometimes they're for other people. Sometimes God might make some verse jump out at you as you're studying, and you might go, I'm not sure why this is jumping out, because I don't see this has anything to do with where I am in life right now, but maybe it has something to do with somebody else.
Answered prayers for Brenda's brother, Stephen Matthews. First time in 2 years that he is in remission from his cancer. He just got the news yesterday.
Awesome.
Or Friday.
That's awesome.
Sorry.
And I don't know if y'all know Stephen, but he's a pretty amazing guy. Randy has already shared a few stories this morning, and we've talked to him a few times, and so he trusts God. He's been trusting God like crazy through all of this. Even been like discipling others as he's gone through this whole cancer journey, which is crazy, right? All right, we're going to proclaim the excellencies of Him who brought us out of darkness, and so I'm going to leave a little bit of time and let y'all have a moment. Let us all have a moment to just talk to God and say, God, I need your help, because even on my best day, I'm nowhere near perfect. So direct my attention to you. God, you know where every person is this morning. You know what's going on in their lives. You know what's going on in our hearts and our minds. Nothing is hidden from your sight. You know the best of it, and you know the worst of it. You know the darkness that's there that we don't even know about. And yet you pursue us. Tells us that you've called us out of darkness and into light. So I ask this morning, since we are a royal priesthood, and you've given us a task to proclaim your excellencies, would you open our eyes to see your excellencies, to see your worthiness? As we sing about how you are good, and how your love and your light and your hope, your peace, your true, your joy, your life, you're more than our words can say. You're a Lord over all creation. You are always here, and we are always in your presence, and above all,